Well, there's no doubt as I look back at it that the absolute highlight of week 4 was the women again, because it was an increasingly large battle between us or me and the team and the people who were doing all the backup for us all the way across Russia. And they absolutely believed that having women on board would be a disaster. And I absolutely knew that they had to be with us. The only thing we could do, and we did it for the next 5, 6, 7 weeks, was to play it day by day and day by day. And eventually, well, we'll come to solutions later. But it was a pretty big battle.
Here we are today in what's a beautiful part of the world, but this morning was the opposite. This morning was the time when it became clear to me that we could get into quite a big conflict between the Russian spirit and the English-speaking party. There's a very strong feeling in the air that the English people or the Western people don't know what they're doing and don't have any idea of the difficulties they're about to meet. In a way, it's Jenny and Marielle who bring that to a surface. If we can bring along 2 people, 2 women, then we clearly don't know what we're doing. And there was the beginning of what's going to become bigger and bigger pressure for me to send on what they call the weaker members. What they mean is Marielle and Jenny, and maybe some others, away from difficult areas where they can't get themselves in I don't know, in what the Russians would think of as emergencies.
I think the Russians think we're a bit incapable and underestimate the conditions out here. And it's been exacerbated by several factors. The clothing we've got, for example, they don't really much like. They think it's sort of hunting, shooting, fishing clothing. And so when a foreign expedition with ladies in it comes along and says that they can do it their way, they don't much like it.
We were now hitting the ice roads. We were having to go from Ust Kut up to Mirnyy, and this is along a river area. We were driving on the rivers for the very first time. And this house, it looks idyllic. It's one of the houses on the road, which we knew we were going to stop at. And there was meat prepared for us and a real meal, quite late. But before we got there, Victor had been driving his car like a tank, absolutely as hard and fast as he could, because he was having a thoroughly enjoyable tobogganing time. The whole thing completely overheated.
Champagne in Siberia.
A drink to the house.
Thank you
Very good to see you.
Outside, the mechanics were feverishly trying to get it so this car would actually go just a little bit further, and they of course had plans for it to go all the way across the Bering Straits. So, as every occasion looks, it was frenetic from their point of view. And in fact, the car never properly recovered. But they got it there and did an extraordinary job. And suddenly, breakfast time in one of the great road stops. We found it incredibly difficult to get started with 30 degrees below zero on the temperature gauges. But it was a remarkable meal. But after a bit, I was kind of looking forward to moving on and getting going. And then suddenly, out of the blue, they decided to give us a gift.
But this is from on behalf of the whole village. Why don't you give it to the association, to Moscow?
Okay.
We have to go. You wouldn't bring my coat with you, Jeff? Will I just take this moose to the doctor?
And so Peter and I walked out. The rest of the team was burning to go too. So this extraordinary kind of feeling of the rest of the team as this moose's head came with us. Never forget it.
I'm slightly staggered. I'm absolutely nonplussed. I have never been given a moose before. I don't know how to say no. I don't know what to do with it. I know the Euro drivers are saying they don't want it on their truck, and we're stuck with a moose. And this is meant to be for the environment. I'm completely stunned. Okay.
So as we were driving up the ice road, with vapour coming out everywhere, pretty slowly the trucks had a lot of stuff in it. Victor continued to drive like he was in charge of the fastest tank in Russia. And of course it stopped again. So for the first time I knew I had to say, Victor, you've got to slow down a bit. And it was me saying, I'm the leader of this lot, not you. So it was quite a tricky conversation, I thought. Anyway, had to be done.
in the trucks together.
And
And we get Euro drivers in the mouth. By explaining to Victor that if that car breaks,
Я уже объяснил Виктору Федоровичу, что если машина
he doesn't have another car until
то у
Fairbanks.
него до Фэрбанкса нет
And that's
другой
not what Victor
машины.
wants. Or I can lead by just giving orders.
Или я могу просто приказывать.
I can do that very easily.
Мне это очень легко сделать.
I don't want to. I think the car isn't bad, but it gave us an opportunity of saying to Victor, stop treating the Ford like a tank. And what Victor's doing suddenly is being kilometres away from the convoy. And he's going off like a lone bear. And we have to slow that down. All's going well, but there's tensions, and we have to stop.
And the ice road, well, we were going pretty slowly at the end of the day and drove right through that day until more or less midnight, when, again, out of the blue, suddenly there's this most extraordinary bunch of people waiting for us to welcome us to a new part of Siberia. And we had this terrific welcome. I think all of us were just absolutely dumbstruck.
Believe this. And I've missed a few of these. This is just the faces of the people. It's like you are coming in completely beautiful clothes and the faces of the children. And I mean, they can't see many people from the West, and it's just, I'm actually astounded by it.
And then we got to Mirnyy. The reason they had ordinary roads there was because there was a huge diamond mine. Actually, it was found by someone who was there in the summer, many, many, many years ago, who had been down to the great big Kimberley diamond mine in South Africa. And he recognised in a fox's hole an identical trace of bluey, greeny material being brought up by the foxes. And he thought, there's diamonds here. And this is now the second biggest diamond mine in the entire world. This is huge. And we went there to have a look whilst the mechanics were looking at the cars to get a bit of a break. And as we looked down this massive hole, we found ourselves looking down at the fog. And in the wintertime, the fog almost never goes away. It's right down the bottom. So I've been on the top, but never seen the very bottom of the second biggest diamond mine in the world. Quite extraordinary.